Okay, I'll ask people to just finding a nice place to sit down. Okay, I've had another request for this evening's talk from United States. Somebody was saying that especially in Western countries, Buddhism is sometimes used as a form of Prozac. In other words, to make people just be at ease with their usual way of life, and it's not really doing very much to change important things like consumption, materialism, the misogyny and harming the environment. And they say, is that what real Buddhism is? Just make people feeling good and at ease and at peace with all the stuff they're getting up to these days? Or is Buddhism much more than that? And obviously I would say it's far, far, far more than just making people at ease with their lifestyle. It's not just business as usual, and just Buddhism makes one feel at ease with business as usual. It does change your lives and change other people's lives and change society's lives. But of course, one of the first things which people come across when they start learning about Buddhism and practicing Buddhism, it does come across as a way of solving many of the problems which we face in our modern world. So that's just a starting point for what people do. You come here and you may have problems with your relationships, and you find out it's not about me, it's not about him or her, it's about us. So we actually change our attitude towards relationship. It's not my fault, it's not her fault, it's not his fault, it is our fault. It gets to understand where those faults really come from, because we just have the wrong priorities in life. The priority is not about being right, it's about being in harmony together. So we don't really concern ourselves about always being the one who is right and arguing over silly small things. Instead, we have the priority of harmony. It's more important. So that's the way that I've lived my life as a monk for such a long time. It's the way our monasteries are run. It doesn't really matter whether the path is swept perfectly. It's more important that the people who are sweeping the paths are happy and at peace. Because if you go and come to, say, this place, the Buddhist Society of Western Australia, there's so many things wrong with this. You can't find parking. You have to park a long way away. You've got to sort of sit on the ground because there's not enough chairs. It's too hot, it's too cold. The dog always barks during the meditation. But it's happy. And you see here, it's much more important you have a friendly community than the thing is actually perfect. Now, what is really important? Why do you come here? Now, you can see just this is where we change our priorities and what's really important in life. So this is what we actually start to teach. And it's not the world which needs to be changed, it's our relationship to the world. Just changing our priorities, changing our views, changing the way we look at things. That is what this Buddhism is trying to teach. And little by little, yes, you do live a happier, more peaceful life. You can live in your world, and I live in my world. Actually, we just live in our world. We come together all the time. We can't separate ourselves up, even though I always wanted to. And that's why I became a monk, to leave the world. And now what happens? I'm stuck right in the middle of the thing. On aircraft flying all over the place. Now I became a monk to disappear. And now what happens? People are taking photographs of me all over the place. I don't know why you're doing that. Especially just even this evening. 2 or 3 people came up to me. They'd come from Sri Lanka and they just wanted to see me. What do you want to see me for? You can see me on YouTube. Get a photo of me. What? I'm not so attractive. I'm not like hot monk. there I am right in the middle of the world. You know, I was just one of our, I don't know if she's here this evening, she's from Indonesia, and she was a very good supporter of ours, and she went to Jakarta to visit her friends, and she went to the bookshop in Jakarta, and she walked into the bookshop and she saw me there in the bookshop. She said, what's Ajahn Brahm doing in the bookshop in Jakarta? Because when I left he was in Bodhinyana Monastery. What's he doing here? And she was really shocked until she went closer up, and it was a cardboard cutout of me in the bookshop, because my books are #1 bestsellers over there. So what's Ajahn Brahm doing as a big cutout in the bookshop? It's really weird being a monk. You know, I became a monk to disappear, and you know, the more you disappear, the less your ego is, the more famous you become. It's really weird. It's true, try it out, check it. But anyway, sort of, you know, I live in the world as well. And so just we learn how to deal with that world. Deal with the world of when you're praised and when you're blamed. Because yeah, I get a lot of praise, but I get into trouble very often as well. You know, for ordaining bhikkhunis. I got in big trouble for that. So what do you do? How Buddhist teaches, it says we have these attitudes to sort of praise and blame, which we all get. You're always going to get that. So the attitude is we imagine ourselves as being this beautiful lotus flower, because a lotus flower is a great symbol of Buddhism. You see lotuses all over the place. And the nice thing about a lotus flower is that you can piss on a lotus flower. You can urinate all over it. And the urine just flows out and it leaves no smell, no residue. Or you can pour Chanel No. 5 on the lotus, and it all drips off, and it leaves no fragrance left at all of the perfume. It's just got its own fragrance. Nothing sticks to a lotus. So that's what you should imagine you are. You are a lotus flower. So someone pees all over you. And you know what I mean by that? They call you an idiot, ugly, stupid. You shouldn't say words like that, Ajahn Brahm. It's not right for a monk to use a piss word. Blah, 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 blah. And of course what happens? It just all flows off. As soon as they finish scolding you, it leaves no residue. And then they come and say that you are the greatest monk in the whole of Nolamara, or maybe No. 2. And then again, just Chanel No. 5 just goes all off and it leaves no residue. That is how we teach about Buddhism. So yeah, it actually works in your life. So the next time your boss at work scolds you, shouts at you, you stupid girl, I don't know why I employ you. Why are you working here anyway? Remember, that's just the boss peeing on you. You're a lotus. It just all goes off and just disappears. The next time your girlfriend says, you are so hot and so wonderful, I'm so lucky just to be going out with you. That's Chanel No. 5. Let it all flow off and leave no residue. Because tomorrow she won't be pouring Chanel No. 5 over you. She'll be peeing on you. That's just what it's like, praise and blame. It's life, isn't it? But why do we react to these things? Now that's what Buddhism can teach us. Learning how not to react to life. Because we can't change life, but we can certainly change just the way we look at life. And this is what actually Buddhism teaches. So yeah, it is a sort of Prozac. You know, the ups and downs of life, the praise and blames, the sufferings, the sicknesses. As I keep telling you, the next time you are sick, don't get upset about it. Don't take medicines. If you get medicines, you get cured. Enjoy the sickness. Milk it for everything it's worth. You don't have to go to work. You can sleep in the morning. It's wonderful. And people are just so kind to you when you're sick. They come and see you. Is any special food you like? You know, sometimes when you're really sick, you can't eat this. Well, when you're healthy, you can't eat this and you can't eat that. But when you're sick, you can eat anything. I think I told a story a couple of weeks ago. I told it somewhere. I hope it was here. But if it wasn't here, One of these guys, I went to go and see him in the hospice. He was dying. And I think it was the old, it's the Murdoch Hospice. I think it's still open there. I went to see him. He was on his last legs. So the nurses told him, they said, well, you're going to die anyway, so you don't have to worry about your cholesterol, you don't have to worry about your diabetes, because cancer's going to kill you in a few weeks. So you can eat whatever you like. I said, really? So yeah, you don't have to worry about food anymore, because, only got 3 or 4 weeks to go, enjoy. So he had all the greasy food he couldn't eat for years, could have put as much sugar in his coffee as he wanted to. It didn't matter anymore. And he was enjoying himself so much, for at last he could eat whatever he wanted. He got better, and they had to take him out of the hospice. That's a true story. I was there, I saw it happen. I had to go in there later on, a few months later, and die, but, just... But sometimes you can enjoy yourself and have fun when you're sick. So you see, you're changing your attitude to it. So when you get sick, woohoo, I'm sick, yes. And it also means that one nice thing about being sick is people can be kind to you. That's actually a beautiful thing about sickness. You're in a hospital, people can come and visit you, they bring you flowers, they're really nice to you. People you haven't seen for weeks or months or even years, they come and visit you. Isn't that beautiful? That's a wonderful thing about sickness. People at last have to express their love and kindness to you, and you're the center of that. So it's a beautiful thing being sick every now and again. So next time you're sick, yes, it's my opportunity for allowing people to practice their compassion on me. So tell your husband, I'm sick today, look after me. And people do like looking after each other. And it's a very joyful thing to do, to show your care and your love. Because, you're vulnerable, you're fragile when you're sick. And so at last you're not so damn independent. You can't do things for yourself, which is great. So you have to let go of your ego and let yourself be helped and cared for, which is a beautiful thing to do. So that means that, it's a wonderful thing. So we change our attitude to these things. And when we change our attitude to these things, you find out, you don't suffer so much in life. Yeah, you lose your job. Brilliant. Again, it gives a change, because how many of your life gets into a rut, it gets boring. Okay, you lose a bit of money and you don't get such security, but for goodness sake, don't sort of be worried about life. The thing is that people want so much security in life because they're so afraid. What might happen if I don't get a job? Look at me, I haven't got an income, I've got no superannuation, I can't get a pension. Am I afraid of my future? Not at all. I know that somehow or other you're going to get by. It's wonderful. Even go travelling, I'm not afraid of getting stuck in an airport with no money, no mobile. I don't have a mobile phone either. So if I miss my plane and I get stuck there, I really am stuck. You know what's happened? A few times that's happened. There's always kind people. And you always go up to them and they always look after you and care for you. Because that's what people are like. People are very friendly, kind people. They are. They just need an opportunity to show their kindness. And certainly that means you don't have to be afraid in life. There are always kind people who will be there to look after you if you're in trouble. And sometimes that may be you, to look after somebody else who's in trouble. And it's a privilege to care for somebody else. Sometimes you say, no, I can do it by myself. No, let them do it for you. So I often say, I don't know if they do it these days, the Boy Scouts these days, not so many Boy Scouts anymore, they used to come along and try and do their good deed of the day. And I always used to say, if somebody, especially if you're old and they try and help you cross the road in a busy traffic, please go, even if you don't want to. You can always cross back again afterwards. Somebody wants to do a kind act, let them do it for you. It's a beautiful thing. So those are the attitudes we are changing in this Buddhism. And it makes life much more fun, far less stressful. We don't complain so much about life. We actually work with life. We work with what we've got rather than just complain about it. So yeah, it is a Prozac, but it's much more than that. And how many times have I sat here and just extolled the beauty of simplicity? Simplicity is such an amazing thing which sometimes we forget. So of course when you watch the TV ads and you see the billboards always telling you to consume this and buy this and support the Australian economy, but just by buying a bigger house or going overseas on trips or whatever, or going to Australia. We're always taught to do so much. But here you say, why do you do such a lot of stuff? If you want to have a holiday, why not stay at home? You spent all this money building a nice house. And there's no bed in any hotel in the world like the bed in your own home. There's no food, just like, your home-cooked food. So when you have a time off, why is it you spend all this money on your house and as soon as you've got time to enjoy it, you're off to Bali or somewhere else? Anywhere but stay in your beautiful home and just relax. And of course, because people can't relax in their home, they don't know how to relax in their own home. And this is where, this is an old story, I told it about 6 months ago, learn how to be a visitor in the home in which you live. And this story is, some of you have heard it before, but it's a powerful story. But this is what Buddhism actually does. It doesn't just change and be a Prozac. It actually sees deeper into what the problems are. Because this story came of my own experience. I come here on a Friday afternoon. It's not just teaching you guys. I have to do some admin work, looking after our Buddhist society. We're planning a global conference, next year maybe. It's supposed to be happening. I'm supporting Lee's, my birthday, not done by the Buddhist Society, but where is she? My birthday bash on August the 3rd, I think, isn't it, something? 63rd birthday, we're doing it in a hotel, a fundraiser to get some more huts for our monks because there's too many monks, no place to stay. All these little things, you can get the tickets out the back over there somewhere. But doing all these things and then teaching all day and all Saturday and Sunday, doing ceremonies as well. Ceremonies are really important in Buddhism as well, because when we do a ceremony, number one, it brings a sort of fellowship together. It brings like a vehicle where we can actually teach some of these great messages of the Buddha. And it's not just a talk. You see like a lantern outside. We have a Wesak ceremony, doing the circumambulation around the park. Some of those ceremonies are really, really important to bring people together and to actually convey some meaning. That's why, people get married. Why do you want to get married for? What's the purpose of being married? You've been living together for 2 or 3, 4 years. Why do you need to exchange rings? Because that ceremony has psychological power to make the commitment together stronger. And that's actually why, if you don't go through that ceremony of marriage, actually it's just you're involved together, you're not really committed. And when I do marriages, I'm doing another one tomorrow morning, I usually say the difference between involvement and commitment. The difference between involvement and commitment is exactly the same as the difference between bacon and eggs. Do you understand? Well, think about it, bacon and eggs. In bacon and eggs, the chicken is only involved, but the pig committed. Chicken only gives an egg and walks away. Pig gives his whole life. So that's why a marriage, okay? Marriage are always pig stuff, okay? You really give totally to each other. That's what. So when you have a ceremony like that, it actually makes it stronger. When you have a ceremony like we had on Wesak Day, taking the 5 precepts in front of the monk. You can take the 5 precepts at home if you want. If you want to know what the 5 precepts are, you can find out in the library. But you can take it at home. But why take it in front of people? Because that makes it more solid. You're dying. And why do you need a funeral ceremony when you're dead? I keep telling my monks, look, the simplest way to save a lot of money, just put me in the yellow recycling bins and they can take me away. It's recycled anyway. Environmentally, it's the best. It just puts in landfill and just, the worms eat you there instead of Karakata Cemetery. But no, I mean, that wouldn't work, would it? Because you want to do a ceremony, because the ceremony there, actually reinforces your ability to let go, of the past. Everybody's there, and the coffin, there's, all the stuff, the memories, and then you walk out afterwards, and you let go of, the memories of the person who's died. It helps let go of the grief. But, I mentioned that some of the ways we do this, psychologically, in Western culture, it makes people cry. Look at the funeral service itself. Still here in Perth, if you've ever gone to a funeral, you have the coffin on the table. I think this is in Karakata. You press the button. I have to do the button pressing. And the coffin goes down. That is really stupid. Psychologically, going down, what does that mean in most cultures? Going down to hell. Now, I suggested this, or I think they were doing some more chapels in Fremantle Cemetery. Why do you do that? Why don't you have, instead of pressing the button going down, you have it on the plinth, you press the button, and it goes up. It goes up, 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 up. And this beautiful heavenly music comes up, and some dry ice, and it goes through a gap in the ceiling and disappears. Wouldn't that? It is uplifting. Granny's gone to heaven. Yes. I don't know why no one else thinks that. That would have been wonderful. But when I wrote about that, I said, I suggested to quite a few people, and they said, well, sometimes that will be lying. Because we know that person was a bad person. So what are you going to do when someone like that dies? And I was thinking quickly. I said, what we should do in the funeral ceremonies, in the crematorium, the chapels, everyone has a button, and we could vote up, down, or for most people, sideways. Now, wouldn't that make funerals really interesting? You want to go there because I want to press my button. I want to say what this person did to me. So that's my idea of funeral. So, but okay, we have to do ceremony, keep it reasonably. Well, actually, do we really have to keep it serious? How would you want your funeral to be? Would you want people to cry at your funeral or laugh? Laugh, yeah. I want people to remember me and all my stupid jokes and all the silly talks which I gave. I want people to remember me with a smile. Laughing, say, what a wonderful time we had together with that monk. And they just feel so happy to have known me instead of being so sad. Isn't that what you would want as well? That's why sometimes the culture of tears and grief is nothing to do with Buddhism at all. It always has been a celebration of a life. Always has been just to see the 998 good bricks in a wall instead of the 2 bad bricks. Always looking at the positive side of a life and feeling grateful to have known somebody for such a long time, shared so many wonderful times together. Because those wonderful moments, they stay with you. And you feel so blessed to have actually been with that person, cherished them. My story, it was like concerts. All the concerts I used to go to as a kid. Great concerts. And when the concert was finished, never once did I cry at the end of a concert. I tell that story at every funeral. I went to see Led Zeppelin. The first concert, they were really nervous. It was on the Marquee Club in Wardour Street. And the very first concert of Led Zeppelin, I was there. I remember another time I went with my brother to see this band in a pub in the north of London. And only 6 people turned up. And I thought the band wouldn't play. They played for us. Only 6, like a private concert. You know who the lead singer was? Rod Stewart. So, a private concert with Rod. So I remember those days, and it was really good fun. And so, I also remember at the end of every concert, when I left the concert hall, never once did I feel sad. I never cried. at the end of a great concert. I felt so happy, so blessed to have been there at the time. And that's how I remember people who have died. Concerts have now finished. What wonderful time we've had together. All these incredible memories. You never cry at the end of a concert. No more should you cry at a funeral service. Like a concert has finished. I would not have missed that for the world. It changes the way you look at things. That is what Buddhism does. So it takes away the suffering, it takes away the tears, it takes away the fear, and it makes you more peaceful. But it also goes much deeper into the meaning of your life. We are a materialistic world, but as monks, we live the opposite. Look at I'm a really famous monk. Look at my jacket here. It's all falling apart. See this? And hundreds of people said, we're getting you a new one. No way. I like this one. It's so comfortable. So, what are we actually saying here? Many of you can go and visit the monastery where I live. You go in my cave. It's not my cave anymore because so many other people go into it. They just use it. This is my home. This is my house. This is where I live. It's a very small thing. And I do that because I want to live, my life as I talk, so I live. I want you to encourage you to live in smaller houses. So Buddhism is not like a Prozac for materialism. It's actually challenging it. And we challenge it so much. And it's obvious. Why is it that people these days have a hard time living with each other? Finding a partner and living in peace and harmony with them? Kids living with their parents? Why is it so difficult? Because we just do not learn these days how to live with one another. Everybody has their own room from the time they're very small in these huge houses. That's not the way I was brought up. I was lucky. I was very fortunate that my father was really poor. Sometimes if you're middle class or wealthy, you are very deprived. Poverty, or rather, a few things. You learn and have so much advantage. I had to share a room with my brother. The apartment, council flat we grew up in was really tiny. So I was always seeing my mum and dad. They were always seeing me. You couldn't escape from one another. Which meant I learned how to live with other people. You had no choice. You had no place to run. What happened? You've got these days huge houses. Everyone's got their own room, which means that we don't know how to live with each other. But I was going to say about how to enjoy your own house. I don't know how I got distracted on that. But this was one of the great little teachings. I work here on the weekends. When I go Sunday afternoon back to Bodhinyana Monastery, 5 days working as the boss of our monastery. Jhana Grove as well, I've got to look after that. So I was working 7 days a week. No holidays. And you know what happened? You go and visit the monastery where I live. People kept on saying, it's so beautiful in your monastery. It's so peaceful. And I say, what are you talking about? It's not beautiful. It's not peaceful. It's my workplace. There's so much stuff I have to do. And I realized that I was working too hard, even in the place where I lived. And I realized that I was wrong. I had bad attitude. So I changed my attitude. And what I did, and what I encourage you to do, every Monday morning when I went back to my monastery in Serpentine, I pretended I was a visitor and not the abbot. I pretended I didn't own the place. So if I saw something which needed to be cleaned up, not my problem. I'm only visiting. When somebody came and asked a question, say, we want to ask you a question on meditation. Sorry, not me. I don't live here. I'm not the abbot today. I'm only a visiting monk. Ask somebody else. Some of the monks wanted to ask about their meditation. Sorry, I don't know. I'm just only a visitor. I'm not the owner. Because when you're a visitor, you've got no responsibilities. You don't have to do anything. Just like if you visited somebody else's house, would you wash up for them? If you do, you're crazy. I don't know what you do. You see something on the carpet, would you get the vacuum cleaner out in somebody else's house and vacuum it for them? Would you go and mow their lawn for them and clean their car for them? You'd be dumb to do things like that. You're a visitor. You just go and sit there and give you cups of tea, give you some curry puffs, whatever you want to eat. You don't have to wash up anything. That's their problem. You can, curry puffs, half of them go on the carpet because, you're a bit of a messy eater. It's not your problem. You're the guest. So that's what I say to you when you go home, maybe tomorrow morning. For a couple of hours, pretend to be a visitor. You don't have to wash the dishes. You don't have to clean the room. You're visiting. When I go in hotels where I travel a lot, I don't wash the linen sheets. There's housekeeping comes in and does all that stuff. I just lay there and enjoy. Now this is where you know the difference between being a visitor and being an owner. And this is where we get into the deep Buddhism stuff. Do you really own your house? If you own your house, you've always got work to be done. Every now and again, be a visitor in the house in which you live, so you can sit in the garden and just enjoy, as if you were on holiday visiting somebody else's house. You can just use all the dishes and the cups. You don't have to wash anything. Housekeeping will do that later on. Now you can see just how you can enjoy the moment. You're not going to be a visitor for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for goodness sake, but don't be an owner for 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Otherwise you'll stress yourself out and you'll never find any peace or happiness in your life at all. Life will be always work, work, work. Work at the office or the place which you work. Work trying to get home. Go home, work in your home. Is that a life you want to live? So please learn how to be a visitor. Pretend to be a visitor in the house in which you live, so you can relax and have some peace at last. So these little attitudes here, it's going very deep in why is it that we're always so stressed out and always working and always worrying so much? Because we think we own life. You don't own life, you're only visiting. You've got very little control at all, so just let go and enjoy, instead of always controlling things. Live in small houses. They cost less money, and you don't have so much space, but you have love. You learn how to get on together. You have to share a room with your brother, with your sister. And later on you can share a room with your partner instead of arguing all the time. Can't you see the connection there? Because everybody has their own room these days, we just don't know how to live together, how to cooperate. We've lost the art of loving. I've been staying in some really, really poor countries in Asia, go to places like Thailand. 7 or 8 people in the same room. And maybe a dog and a cat as well on the bed. And those people grow up loving each other for the rest of their life, always caring for one another. See our problem in our modern world? Such big houses, we've lost family. We don't know how to live together anymore. Which means so many people are lonely. And we waste so many of the world's resources on these huge houses with everyone have their own room, and most rooms are always empty. How many rooms do you need? And that way I can save you so much money. You don't have to spend all this money on these huge houses, which means that you can retire early. Isn't that a nice idea? So these are little things about learning not to have so much, which is an important part of our modern world. Materialism is okay, but it's just gone over the top. How much do you really need? And so keeping it simple actually means you're actually much more happy and much more sort of peaceful in your life. And you've got more time. How many of you haven't got enough time? If anybody, it's your birthday or Christmas, what can I give you? You say, please give me another week or another hour on every day. Wouldn't that be a wonderful gift? It's very easy to do that. Just be a visitor for 1 hour every day. Don't own your life. Don't own that hour. Visit it. And when you change the attitude, it's amazing how much time you have. Or if you really want even more time, let go of the past and the future. Now is all the time you ever have and you ever need. A lot of times people say they haven't got any time because they're not ever here. I made a talk some years ago, a little insight into what I call the in-between moments of your life. You know those moments, you're waiting for the talk to start. Hasn't started yet. You're in the doctor's surgery waiting for your name to be called. You're in the traffic, stuck at a red light. So much of your life, you've left where you came from and haven't arrived at your destination yet. And those are much of your life which you throw away. The in-between moments of your day, of the week, of your life. And you think you don't have enough time? Cherish the in-between moments. And you find there's so many of them in your life. When you cherish them, it means you're not really worried about where you came from. And you're not thinking of where you're going to. Instead, you're being where you are and enjoying it. Being stuck in the traffic jam on the way to work is so wonderful. It means you can't go anywhere. So relax and be here. You don't have to worry about the traffic. It's not moving. You can really relax. Some years ago, somebody told me that they said it was in Delhi, but recently somebody found out it was actually in Chennai. The government there had put in the red traffic lights, no stop signs. When the red traffic light turned on, they had the 5 letters, RELAX. They weren't stop lights. They were relax lights. If anyone works for Main Roads in Perth, can I suggest we have that in Perth? As soon as the red traffic light comes on, you see these big words, relax, you can't go anywhere. Be where you are. Wouldn't that be psychologically wonderful? I don't know if you've seen this. Somebody showed me a photograph of in Montreal, in Canada. They got bus stops. Now, what's it like in a bus stop? Waiting for the bus to come to go somewhere. A classical in-between moment, waiting for the bus. Montreal, sadhu, 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 Montreal. Instead of having benches for people to sit in, they've got swings. So see all school kid and a businessman and a lady in a business suit, get the bus, and they're swinging backwards and forwards, and apparently they enjoy it so much when the bus comes, carry on, I'll get the next one. Well, that's really innovative. Have a bit of fun when you're waiting, because those in-between moments of life are just so important. We waste that. That's why we don't have any time, because we're wasting so much. So please, when you've left where you've come from and you haven't arrived at your destination, cherish those moments. They're great moments when you can just relax, be yourself, enjoy this moment, and don't throw them away. So those are the sorts of things which we like to teach, as we're really getting something which is much deeper. Peace, stillness, and like the attitude which we always have. You can't change the world, but you can always make peace with it. It's incredible just how powerful that is, to make peace with this moment, to make peace with the person who's shouting at you. even to make peace with a person who is attacking you. Do you think that's possible? One of the old stories I haven't told for years was when we first came to this center about 33, 4, 5 years ago, I forget what. And we had our opening ceremony. And we'd invited Sir Gordon Reed. That's the Reed Highway, it's named after him. He was the Lieutenant Governor of Western Australia at the time. And he actually came to our opening. He was very small at that time. And so I was asked, I was number 2 monk at the time, by Ajahn Brahm, can you please arrange the marquee we had just next to the community hall over there? We didn't have this place at the time. And can you arrange all the chairs for the VIPs? And so, I was told by our treasurer, this is a big event, opening our center here about 35 years ago. 35 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, 25 years ago, sometime about that. But anyway, I was told to get the very best. So I rang up in this hire firm in Claremont, which was hiring out to Peppermint Grove and Dalkeith. It was just really high class, because that's what I was told to do. And I said, look, we got big shots coming, VIPs, the Lieutenant Governor is coming, an ambassador or two is coming for our opening ceremony. We want the very best. And I remember the lady who answered the phone said, yes, I will get the very best for you. Thank you. And we're having the ceremony on a Sunday, on a Saturday, Sunday. Friday afternoon, the van came, from the hire company, put up the marquee and the chairs, and I was too busy helping someone else to really check, and they were in and out so quickly. And when I checked what they delivered, the marquee was full of red dust, like it's been on some show up in the country somewhere. And it was really dirty. And so that wasn't a problem. I could hose it down with a few friends. The chairs were all dirty as well. So we had to get rags out and clean every chair. Okay, we can handle that. But the VIP chairs, that was not possible to tolerate. Because the VIP chairs we'd have for the governor and his wife, this is no exaggeration. Those who were there at the time will know this was true. Not one of those about dozen chairs had legs the same length. They all wobbled. A lot. We had the governor and his wife coming. And so you can't have the governor falling over during the ceremony because the chairs had got wobbly legs. So I immediately got on the telephone and I managed to get the manager of this hire firm just before they closed on a Friday for the weekend. And I reminded us that we asked for the very best. You're giving us rubbish. We don't mind the chairs being dirty, but when they got not the right length legs, we can't take that. You've got to change them. And she remembered me and she said, we must have made some mistake. I'm sorry. We'll change them straight away. And they came in another about 45 minutes with a new lot of chairs. But remember, this was Friday afternoon, in Perth, Australia. Once the workers had finished the last delivery, they were in the pub, starting their weekend drinking. And apparently the manager had come in and said, the Buddhists need their chairs changed. Get back to work. So these guys were not all that happy. In fact, as the car came round the corner, I was waiting in front of this building here. They'd only got halfway along Nansen Way. They're still going about 20, 30 kilometers an hour. And one of the guys jumped out of the truck and came running towards me with his fist like this. Where's the bloke in charge? I want the bloke in charge. And I went up to him and said, I am the bloke in charge. And he had his fist this far from my nose. And his eyes were like red, like in some movie of a monster. And he'd been drinking, I don't know how many beers already, because I could smell all this alcohol. I always say that I consumed the most alcohol from his breath in all the years I've been as a monk. And he was ready to punch me to the ground. And all my friends, all the other people who were working here, they just stood and looked. Thank you, friends. Not one person came to help me. But I didn't need any help. Because this was one of the most wonderful times when, what I say here, just make peace, be kind, be gentle. That's all I was doing. And that guy could not touch me. His hand was right in front of me. His eyes were really, really wide, and he was ready to floor me. But I wasn't at all afraid, nor was I trying to be arrogant. I was just being peaceful, being kind, being gentle. And I knew I had him totally in my power. It's one of those wonderful moments where you're just enjoying this moment. He couldn't move. He didn't know what to do. Because usually when somebody, he puts his fist in front of somebody else like that, they say, yeah, 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 and then bang. But I wasn't going to go into that sort of stuff. I just sitting. And it took about 5 or 10 minutes. And then the truck had sort of parked, and the head guy, the manager, whatever, came out. He put his hand on this guy's shoulder and said, let's unload the chairs. And I said, yeah, I'll help you. And we did. We unloaded those chairs together. He was very angry, half drunk, willing to floor me, and he couldn't do it. Simply because you know how to diffuse anger. Just by being peaceful, being kind, being gentle. That's what you learn as a monk. That's what you learn from meditation. What a wonderful skill that is to teach in this world. So it's not just a Prozac for our modern life. It's actually teaching people how to diffuse violence in our society. Of course, monks may be the experts at that, but we can teach you a lot of that, and you can diffuse a lot of violence. As I say to a lot of people, when somebody starts to get very upset and angry, a simple technique, just start lowering your voice and speaking very slowly, and everybody starts to calm down. But if you start speaking with a high speed and very fast, doesn't that get you excited? It's simple things which awareness, mindfulness, meditation teaches you how to diffuse situations and make people peaceful and calm. So this is actually, it's a very powerful teachings, which can help people live not just a peaceful life, but a very wise life. And all the time we're leaning towards the ultimate teachings in Buddhism, Nibbana. People say Nirvana, what's this got to do with Nirvana? Letting go of your wanting, learning how to be still, learning how to make peace. The more peace you have, the closer you are to enlightenment. Peace of mind. Just so you are like a lotus, that nothing can actually harm you. That you are at ease with yourself and with the world. That you have contentment, as I was talking about in meditation. You start by having a smaller house. To being content with what you have. You don't need so much. Being content with who you are as a human being. You're beautiful enough as it is. As I say every week, you are a crooked tree in the forest. Don't try and straighten yourself up. I love crooked trees. They're the most beautiful in the forest. So why are you trying to straighten out your faults? Love yourself as you are. Be at peace with yourself. Be kind. Open the door of your heart to yourself. Then you have peace of mind. Part of being enlightened is just, I don't have to change. There's no one in there to change. Just be. Let go. No craving, no wanting, no anger, no trying to change things, no fear. All these things are part and parcel of the ultimate truth. Now this is the way that the Buddha described ultimate truth, not in some philosophical nonsense about we are all one. We're not all one. At least two, because I know every airport I go to, there's always two, men, women, toilets. I haven't gone to any airport yet which says we're all one, so we all go into the same loo. So any religious organisation which propounds we are all one should have toilets, not men, not female, everybody goes into the same one. Would that be a good idea? We're all one anyway, just sit next to each other, no partitions between you. We're all one, what's the big problem anyway? It's obviously not all one. But that's, people say all these amazing nice things and it makes a lot of sense, but they can't practice it. At least the sort of stuff you hear here is very practical. It works. It makes you more and more peaceful, more and more calm, more and more kind. It actually inclines towards this idea of nirvana. Nirvana is not something which you can state to other people. It's a state of understanding of wisdom, and that understanding of wisdom is not something you say, it's something you live. To be at peace with the world, to be at peace with yourself, to be content, to know when it's the right time, to try and do something and change and help when it's the right time, just to let things be, and be sick and enjoy it. To be kind to those who are angry, not trying to tell them why they shouldn't be angry. Those are the sorts of things which Buddhism teaches, and which is one of the reasons why it's getting very popular in this world. It works, and it makes everybody who touches it. They take a lot, they take a little, it's up to them. It makes them better human beings. And that's why sometimes when people teach things like mindfulness and all these great things of Buddhism which get out there in the world, and all sorts of other people teach it, sometimes making money out of it, I don't care as long as it makes people happier and more peaceful. Because no one owns the truth. No one, no more than anyone, owns the air which we breathe. The job of a Buddhist monk is just to show people the truth, to present it, to give, not to take, not to control, to let people be. And of course the most important thing of a Buddhist teacher, the most important part of my life, the goal of my life as a teacher, is to get rid of you all. To make you so wise and so kind that you never have to come back here ever again. So you graduate. And that's why I tell people I'm a very bad teacher. More and more people come every week. And some of the people, the same people, have been coming here for the last 30 years. So I must be a very bad teacher. If I was a school teacher, imagine a school teacher and some of the students have been coming back to my class for 30 years. I'd be given a sack. So the job is to learn how to let go, to free people and to free oneself. So yeah, Buddhism is more than just the Prozac. It may start like that, but it goes far deeper, right into the heart of who you are and how you behave. So hopefully I answered that question for the United States. Thank you for listening. Sadhu. Okay, we've got some questions now. Here we go for question time. Very good. From Thailand and from UK. Okay, number one, should people suffering from depression meditate? A monk said that meditation can enhance our feelings. Does it mean that negative feelings may become more intense? Not if you meditate properly. There's many types of meditation. The meditation which tries to control your mind will always make negative feelings worse. But the meditation which lets things be, which makes peace with your depression, which is kind to your anger, that is what makes things like depression less. There's a classical story which answers this. I haven't told enough stories this talk. The story of the monster who came into the emperor's palace story. Once upon a time there was this monster who came into the palace of the emperor, and this monster was so ugly, so frightening, that all the guards were supposed to be looking after the palace and stopping this riffraff coming in. They froze in terror. They hid behind the doors. They made themselves scarce because they were afraid of this really ugly, frightening monster, and allowed the monster to go right into the throne room and sit on the emperor's chair. A witch, they said, get out of here, monster, you don't belong. Get out or you'll be in big trouble. But every unkind word, every unkind deed, even unkind thoughts, the monster grew an inch bigger, more ugly, more smelly and more frightening. And that made them even more angry. And they were trying to get rid of this monster by all means, but every unkind deed, word or thought, the monster just grew an inch bigger, more ugly, more smelly, more offensive. By the time the emperor came back, because he was away when the monster came in, this monster was huge, took up half the throne room, and was so frightening, as I usually say, that even DreamWorks in Hollywood could not come up with such an ugly monster, even more ugly than in Alien, and was so smelly that even the maggots crawling on the monster's skin threw up. They vomited, they bathed, even they couldn't take the smell. And as soon as the emperor saw this ugly, smelly monster, he realized these people's mistake. Instead of saying, get out of here, you don't belong, the emperor said, welcome. Thank you for coming to visit me, monster. Why have you waited such a long time to drop in? Has anyone got you a cup of tea yet? Do you want a curry puff? You know, we have some great curry puffs here. And he was really kind. And there's a few acts of kindness. The monster grew an inch smaller, less ugly, less smelly, less offensive. And the people realized their mistake. Instead of being cruel and angry at monsters, they were kind to them. Often, usually, I say I better be quick because I usually make the story up and say they gave him foot massage, about 20 people around one foot, was so huge. They gave him this nice cup of tea with condensed milk, and they really liked that. So the monster... and every kind act, kind word, kind deed, the monster grew smaller. And soon as back to the size when he first came in, they kept on with the kindness until the monster was so tiny, one more bit of kindness and the monster vanished completely away. That was a story told by the Buddha with a few additions from me, calling that's an anger-eating monster. You give it anger, get out of here, and it gets worse. Bigger, more of a problem. That's why many of the problems in meditation, things like depression, sickness, get out of here, you don't belong. It makes it bigger, it feeds it. Instead you say, welcome. Thank you for coming to visit me. What happens then? You're not so depressed about being depressed. It gets less and less and less. It's the way you meditate. Any problem in meditation, if you say, get out of here, you don't belong, you will get bigger, stronger, and more of a problem. If you say, welcome, thank you, you're practicing kindness and contentment, that is the way to meditate. Lastly, from UK, how do we learn to disappear when the ego is fearful and depressed by this? The idea of disappearing can be depressing and fearful for the ego. Oh, it's not, it's wonderful to vanish, to get away from it all. Don't people go on holiday to get away from it all? A lot of people do that. They say, I'm going up north, I'm going south to get away from it all. The problem is you bring you with you. And that's the one you should really be trying to get away from. Getting away from this me, always not happy with myself. So you're getting away from that part of you, the part of you which is disappearing, which is the part of you which is never happy with who you are, never happy with who you say, what you say. Or that critical one of you, that fault-finding, that's the one you're trying to get rid of. Wouldn't it be wonderful? Imagine, just imagine, that disappeared, your fault-finder. Always telling you you're not good enough, you're not beautiful enough, you're not smart enough, you're not anything enough. Wouldn't it be wonderful if that disappeared? Wouldn't it be wonderful if that part of you disappeared? I have to go here, I have to do that. That control freak inside of you. So let that disappear. And when you know what's really disappearing, that part of your ego, which is always judging and fault-finding and controlling, that's not depressing at all, that disappears. That's like a prisoner saying, oh, if the prison cells disappear and all the guards disappear, that's scary. That's not scary. That's wonderful. That's freedom. So if you understand what it's like when things disappear, All that's disappearing is the cage in which you've been confined in. All that's disappearing is your prison guards, your torturers. And at last you are free. So you disappear little by little, especially things like fault finding, things like being controlled by the past or the guilt and anger, or being imprisoned by the future or the fear and the anxieties of what might happen next. Those are the things which are good to disappear. When those disappear, you have freedom. If you understand what disappearing is, it is wonderful. Freedom at last. Okay, so those are a couple of questions here. So now is the time for you to disappear. Bye-bye. So I've gone off a bit long. So let's pay respects to Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and then you can disappear.